Welcome to Fantasy Baseball Picks and Bets presented by Prize Picks. I'm JT Hayes, run Pure Sports, runpuresports.com, runpurebets.com. You know all about Prize Picks by now if you're following our videos and if you're following the Mayo Media Network like you should be, and if you're liking these videos like you should. Prize Picks is going to set a line. The line is fantasy points using DraftKings scoring. You pick the over or under. And if you go to prizepicks.com and open your account right now and enter code MMNMLB, that's MMN, like Mayo Media Network, which you should be liking right now, MLB, you'll get a $100 deposit match. So once again, code MMNMLB, you get a $100 deposit match, and you can put to good use the content and information that we're providing in these videos almost every day of the week. So not a whole lot of picks up on prizepicks.com. There are probably going to be more put up in the morning. That's why you should always visit runpuresports.com. If you're not a member, visit runpuresports.com, enter code RPSHeater25, get 25% off of your first month's payment, because throughout the day we have a ton of content. We're going to have a playbook that talks about all of the 9 games that are on Monday's slate. We're going to have core plays. We're going to have our guys that are looking at prize picks. In particular, our guy Luke puts out a number of prize picks every day for every slate, and honestly, for almost every sport. But a couple of the picks that are up that I like, we're going to start in Baltimore. The Twins go into Baltimore. They're going to be playing the Orioles. And both of these teams have been really skidding. I think the Orioles right now, it's a 13-game losing streak. Jose Barrios is going to be pitching in Baltimore. Jose Barrios has been pretty good recently, but historically, over the course of his career, not very good on the road. And the leadoff hitter for the Baltimore Orioles, Cedric Mullins, his over-under is set at just 6.5. And Jose is a guy that, if you get on a guy like Cedric Mullins, a base stealer, can easily steal second, and honestly, maybe even steal third, or maybe he gets an extra base hit. And at just 6.5, I like the over-under on Cedric Mullins to go over in this matchup. Twins bullpen after Jorge Lopez, just not very good. So I think Cedric Mullins in the leadoff spot has a really good chance to get over those 6.5 fantasy points. Another guy that I like, the Tampa Bay Rays go into New York. They take on Jameson Taillon and a New York Yankee team that is struggling. They just got swept in Detroit, and Taillon himself hasn't been good, giving up a lot of hard contact, giving up a lot of home runs in particular. And with a bullpen game on Sunday, this Yankees team, if they're forced to get into that pen early, and unfortunately I think they probably will be, it's just not going to be a good day for them. So, Austin Meadows, batting cleanup for this Tampa Bay team at 6.5 is the line, over under 6.5 fantasy points. I expect him to go over that number. I expect that the Rays will probably get a win in this game. Cedric Mullins, over 6.5 fantasy points. Austin Meadows, over 6.5 fantasy points. Those are the prize picks that I think are going to do well on Monday's slate. But again, go to runpuresports.com, join us, RPS Heater 25, get 25% off your first month's payment, get in our Discord. We talk about all of the games, all of the sports, all throughout the day. So first things first, in the last week of Major League Baseball, no hitters. That's big news because last week we had 2. We've had 6, maybe 7, depending on how you count it so far. But no hitters, but also not a ton of offense. And it's been one of those seasons where most of the week you're struggling to find offense, and then there's 1 or 2 nights, usually a Tuesday or a Friday, where every team is in play, where, okay, now you have some offense. So it's a combination of maybe the strikeouts, maybe the ball, maybe the better pitching, maybe some of these parks in the humidor that we talked about last week. But a couple of storylines coming out of this week. Well, the New York Yankees just talked a little bit about how they went into Detroit and got swept. That's right. The Yankees go into Detroit and get swept. And they're 5-5 over their last 10. I am certain that the New York tabloids are going to be going crazy on Monday morning. They're going to be hosting the Tampa Bay Rays. a division matchup. And here's the thing. Toronto has not stopped hitting the ball. The Red Sox are playing well. Tampa Bay is playing well. The Yankees, if they don't get it together really quickly, are going to have a really tough hill to climb as they face Rich Hill on Monday afternoon in the Bronx. So something to keep an eye on, because I'm certain that the people in New York are going crazy about this Yankees team right now. Something else to keep an eye on, we've talked about the National League West. The Los Angeles Dodgers, reigning, defending World Series champions. San Diego Padres got to the playoffs last year, got to the National League Championship Series last year, and are playing really well this year. But the team so far that has been a surprise in the National League West, the San Francisco Giants. The Gabe Kapler-led San Francisco Giants. What did they do this weekend? They go into Los Angeles and, they just win 3 or 4. But hey, here's what they did in winning 3 or 4. They beat Walker Buehler. They beat Julio Urias, who just a week ago had pitched a gem against them. And then on Sunday, they not just but they beat up on Clayton Kershaw. These Giants are for real. They are exciting to watch. I've always loved, since he came up, the talent of Mike Yastrzemski. I've liked Alex Dickerson, Evan Longoria having just a phenomenal resurgence to his career, and guys like Brandon Crawford and Mauricio Dubon and Austin Slater, and who could forget Buster Posey, putting it all together, really coming through in this weekend series in Los Angeles. Look forward to seeing the matchups in the National League West throughout the rest of the season. Staying in that same division, the Colorado Rockies. Man, it's been really tough, especially all of these Colorado road games where they just don't perform all that well. They were swept by the Mets over the course of this week, and Trevor Story, a little bit of an issue with his elbow. He's ended up going for an MRI coming up in the next couple of days. Rockies did not trade him yet. We expect that they will trade him, providing that he is healthy. Clearly a disappointing situation for Bud Black, who's now going to have to oversee just a complete rebuild. And look, they play in one of the toughest places to play for pitching. It's really tough to recruit pitching in Colorado. And man, it's going to be a long rest of the season for Colorado Rockies fans. One last thing, couple of last things actually. The Atlanta Braves. Man, they actually gave up 13 runs to the New York Mets on Saturday night. Their bullpen just not major league level. They have had one of the worst bullpens throughout the course of the first couple of months of the season. And as good as their offense is, with all of these injuries to their starting pitchers, looks like Mike Soroka may miss the rest of the season, may miss at least another couple of months. And then bad news on top of bad news, Marcell Ozuna arrested for domestic violence over the weekend. He's already out for a couple of months with broken fingers that he suffered in the series during the week. So it's just a really tough time for the Atlanta Braves. We'll have to see what happens with Marcel's case and what goes on there. And then finally, one last piece. On Thursday, Shohei Ohtani missed his start against the Oakland Athletics in Oakland because of a traffic jam. I kid you not, a traffic jam. So apparently the team was shuttling him in one of a couple of buses over the Bay Bridge, and there was a terrible jam, and so they went back into San Francisco and put him on Bay Area Rapid Transit. Turns out, couldn't get there in time to get his pregame ritual done, so the Angels made the decision, hey, we're not going to start him. They did start Patrick Sandoval. He actually pitched pretty well, but I mean, seriously, a traffic jam? This is one of the greatest players in the game, one of the most interesting players in the game, in that he's a two-way player, the likes of which we haven't seen in several generations. And you're leaving it to Bay Area Rapid Transit to get this guy to the game? Come on, Angels. What are you going to do when you go to New York? You're going to put him on the Q train in the middle of the night? Listen, let's get it together. So let's move into the picks for the 9-game slate on DraftKings. Again, Earlier slate because of Memorial Day beginning at 1:05 p.m. 9 games there. I think there is a night slate, 3 games, but we're going to focus on the 9-game day slate. We're going to talk about some pitching. And tops on my list, Corbin Burnes, 9.9K on DraftKings. He's facing Detroit. Detroit feeling themselves. They just swept the New York Yankees. It's honestly a perfect letdown spot against Corbin Burnes, who has a 43% strikeout rate. I expect that this is, remember, Corbin Burnes spent a little time on the IL. He had to go through the COVID protocols. But now, 9.9K on DraftKings against Detroit, coming off of a sweep of the New York Yankees. I think this is a spot where Corbin Burnes is just going to absolutely dominate. I probably will not make a lineup without him on this Monday slate. I'm supposed to talk about a cheap pitcher, but we don't have a lot of information about some of these games in terms of who's going to be starting. And I can't give you a cheap pitcher, so I'm going to go to another higher price pitcher and a guy who's just been phenomenal to start his career with the Oakland Athletics, James Kaprielian, 9.1K at Seattle. Seattle just having a really tough time, in particular with right-handed pitching. Kaprielian, 9.1K on DraftKings, a little bit higher than I would like to see him because I still only think his ceiling is about 6 innings, but 27% strikeout rate against the Seattle team that just has looked really lost at the plate. Even this weekend at home against the Texas Rangers. Yeah, sure, they won a couple of games, but they're just not putting the ball in play enough, and that park is really tough for hitters. So, like James Kaprielian here quite a bit. In terms of stacks, let's look at the Cincinnati Reds returning home to the Great American Ballpark against Vince Velasquez. Like this spot a lot for the Reds against Velasquez and a Phillies bullpen that has certainly come back down to earth. My favorite plays from the Cincinnati team, Eugenio Suarez, usually leading off these days at 4.5K. I also like Tyler Naquin at 3.7K, an outfield play. And then another outfield play, Jesse Winker at 4.6. So the Cincinnati Reds against Vince Velasquez and the Philadelphia Phillies. One more stack. Boston Red Sox go into Houston. Houston has historically and so far this year, and they showed it again, even though it was a small sample against 3 innings of Blake Snell, just torrid against left-handed pitching. They get Eduardo Rodriguez, who has not been good at all on the season to start the year. And you've got Jose Altuve at 4.6K, Bregman at 5.2, and Aledmys Diaz at 2.7, a guy who can let you pay up for some of the more expensive pitching. He's now outfield eligible, which makes it a lot easier to get him into the lineup. So the Houston Astros against Eduardo Rodriguez. Finish it up with some bets. I talked about the stacks I liked. I said I liked Cincinnati. I said I liked Houston. I like the money lines on these games as well. Cincinnati, money line, minus 125. Houston, money line, minus 113 for the 9-game Memorial slate. I think there's a ton of value in those lines. Again, a lot of things are going to change throughout the course of the night. That's why you should come to Run Pure Sports, runpuresports.com. Enter code RPSHeater25. Get 25% off of your first month's payment, because we cover every sport, and tomorrow we're going to have a playbook. We're going to have core plays. We're going to have a slate strategy from actually myself. And we have a bet side, runpurebets.com, where we give out information about where the best value is. And we've got some of the best players, the best DFS players, the best sports gamblers in the world. Hoop, Big T, AP, JSU, and Draft Cheat, as well as me. runpuresports.com. Run Pure on this Memorial Day. And once again, thank you to everyone who has served this country.